Wednesday. Today is June 10th, and we're starting 12.2. Today we're just going to cover example 1, and it is 12.2 is the final section we will do. Isn't it nice having the smaller classes with all the seniors gone? Just kidding. Anyway, I'm going to go kind of slow. We're going to do lessons for 3 days. So we will have material Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You'll review Monday. There'll be a quiz Tuesday. You'll review Wednesday. There'll be a quiz next Thursday and Friday. And then you are done. So we can do this, guys. 3 more videos. Today's will be kind of short. The next 2 might be a little bit longer. So sorry. Especially because I just used almost a minute. But our goal for 12.2 day 1 is to be able to use the properties of limits to evaluate limits. So you might have noticed there's a piece of paper that says properties of limits. You can use those. That's what we are using today. They're pretty straightforward. But notice when it says use the properties of limits on a test or quiz, make sure you show the following work. If it doesn't, tomorrow I'm going to show you an easier way. So example, we're going to find the limit as x approaches -1 of 2x squared minus 3 over x plus 2. And so what the properties of limits do is allow us to rewrite the problem in terms of limits. So the first thing, this is a fraction, so I can rewrite the top as the limit of 2x squared minus 3 over the limit of x plus 2. And do you have to do this step by step by step? Absolutely not. But I am going to. And now I've got 2 terms on the top, which means I will have 2 limits. Limit of 2x squared minus the limit of 3. Oh, Nelly, I forgot x approaches -1. So as x approaches -1, x approaches -1, all over the limit as x approaches -1 of x plus the limit as x approaches -1 over 2. So now I've written these as 4 separate things. However, I still have this 2x squared. And now I am going to do 2 limits all at once. I'm going to take the 2 in front because it's a constant, so the limit isn't affected by x approaching -1. And I am going to write it as x, and then we are going to put this in parentheses and square it. Minus the limit as x approaches -1 of 3 over the limit as x approaches -1 of x plus the limit as x approaches -1 of 2. And in reality, on your test or quiz, you can go directly from here to here. You don't have to break it up. But what you must have is the limit of x or the limit of a constant. You cannot have anything multiplying by it. So the multiply must be outside. The squared must be up here. So now we just evaluate. What happens is 2, the limit as x approaches -1 of x is just -1. And then the limit as x approaches -1 of 3, well, that's not affected at all because there's no x here. And then as x approaches -1 of x, that'll just be -1. And this will be plus 2. So we simplify that to be 2 times -1 squared. That's 2 minus 3 over 1, which is, -1. So using the properties of limits, we find the limit as x approaches -1 of 2x squared minus 3 over x plus 2 equals -1. And so when you use the properties, each term must be written as a single limit. So there were 4 terms here, so we will have 4 limits. The x's must be isolated. So if there's a constant, you'll bring it in front of the limit. Squared, cubed up top. There you go. Yeah, today is really short, but that's okay. So here's my your turn. There's 2 problems. Give them both a try, and then we're good. And do today's homework. So x approaches 3. of x squared plus 2x minus 7. And problem 2, limit as x approaches 2 of the square root of x plus 4. So give those a shot. Oh, I didn't even tell you what, x approaches 3. All right, hopefully you had a chance. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. So the first term would be the limit as x approaches 3 of x, and that whole thing must be squared, plus 2 times the limit as x approaches 3 of x, plus, the limit as x approaches 3 of negative 7. And so I'm going to plug this in, and this becomes 3 squared plus 2 times 3 plus 7. So 9 plus 6 plus 7 is what? 22? Oh, I made a mistake. It's minus 7. So this should be, okay, Miss Dunbar. Someone was probably shouting this whole time. So 15 minus 7 is 8. And so the limit as x approaches 3 of x squared plus 2x minus 7 equals 8. Sorry. All right. This one's a little bit trickier because we have this square root. And so we can just write the square root over the entire thing and then write it the limit as x approaches 2 of x plus the limit as x approaches 2 of 4. And the limit as x approaches 2 of x is literally 2, and this is 4. So our answer is a square root of 6. So the limit as x approaches 2, the square root of x plus 4 is equal to the square root of 6. And there you go. Sorry for not showing that. That is it. So the key thing is I'm going to teach you another way to do this tomorrow. But if the problem says using the properties of limits, that is how you're going to do it.